Well, hello from the Giant's Causeway on the north coast of Northern Ireland, where we have some incredible breaking news for you today. Well, this is exciting. Earlier today, we're being told tourists and National Trust rangers saw the legendary fin disappear into a magical doorway within the rock face here at the Giant's Causeway.
For nearly 5,000 years, something remained hidden behind a mysterious stone door beneath one of Ireland's oldest ancient monuments. No one knew what was on the other side or why the massive stone seemed to move. Then, during an archaeological investigation, the impossible happened. Irish archaeologists cracked it open by accident. What happened next shocked everyone. The site was suddenly sealed off, the discovery was kept out of the public eye, and archaeologists refused to explain what they had found inside. But then, somehow, footage from the chamber was leaked, and whoever leaked it seemed desperate for the world to see the truth. And what that footage showed about what has been living inside that hill left scientists horrified. But before we uncover what was hidden behind Ireland's mysterious stone door for nearly 5,000 years, make sure to subscribe to the channel, because the truth you're about to discover is more shocking than fiction. The man who started it all. The man at the center of this story isn't a scientist. He's Kieran Doyle, a 34-year-old electrician from Dublin. On a Tuesday evening last autumn, Doyle drove north from the city because the weather forecast promised clear skies and a calm sea. He wanted a panoramic clip of the Antrim coast for his Instagram page. He'd done this dozens of times before. Fly the drone out over the cliffs, capture a few minutes of footage, post the best frame, drive home. The Giant's Causeway is one of Northern Ireland's most remarkable and popular sites, a place of both science and mythology. People flock there each year to see the Emerald Isle's first World Heritage Site. Doyle wasn't chasing legends. He wasn't looking for anything unusual. But what his drone recorded that evening would become one of the most analyzed pieces of amateur footage in recent memory. The video shows a section of the basalt cliff face moving, not crumbling, not sliding, moving. A slab the size of a transit van, approximately 20 tons of solid volcanic rock pushing slowly outward like a door on a hinge. Behind it, total darkness. The movement was smooth, deliberate, almost mechanical. Exactly 11 seconds. Then the stone returned to its original position with surgical precision. No crack, no gap, no seam. Doyle almost didn't post the clip. He thought his drone had glitched or the light was playing tricks. He rewatched it 6 times on his phone, and each time he could see the shadows shifting behind the slab. Something was open back there. He told a close friend he sleeps differently now, lighter, more alert, like something shifted the night he watched that stone move and never shifted back. He uploaded it that night. By morning, his phone was ringing non-stop. Geologists, journalists, university researchers, all demanding the same answer. Was it real or was it fake? One of those callers was about to drive to that cliff face the next morning, point a piece of equipment at the rock, and see something on her screen that made her go silent for nearly 2 full minutes. The geologist who broke first, Dr. Sarah Brennan, is a senior geologist at Queen's University Belfast who has studied the Antrim basalt formations for over 15 years. She has published dozens of papers on volcanic rock structures across the North Atlantic. She is not someone who chases viral videos. When colleagues forwarded her the clip, she nearly dismissed it outright. Then she watched it a second time, then a third. She called Doyle directly and told him point blank, either his footage broke every known rule of geology, or it was the most sophisticated hoax she had ever seen. She drove to the site the next day. Now, here's what you have to understand about the Giant's Causeway. It's a stretch of northern Irish coastline, made up of roughly 40,000 interlocking hexagonal basalt columns formed when lava cooled into eerily perfect geometric pillars, 60 million years ago. Local legend says a giant named Finn McCool built them as a bridge to Scotland. It's a beautiful story. What was actually sealed inside them is something else entirely. After centuries of research, countless geological surveys and ground scans, nobody had ever discovered a single hollow space inside these cliffs. No ancient writing described a hidden chamber. No legend pointed toward one. Dr. Brennan herself had scanned stretches of that coastline dozens of times throughout her career and found nothing except solid rock every single time until Kieran Doyle's drone captured it on camera. If you want to see the moment that door opens again, because every researcher who has studied this data believes it will, hit subscribe and switch notifications on right now. The next scan is the one nobody wants to discuss on the record. What the radar discovered. Dr. Brennan reached the coordinates from Doyle's footage early the next morning. The weather was gray. The wind was slicing sideways off the Atlantic. She positioned her ground-penetrating radar, calibrated the sensors, pointed the antenna toward the cliff face, and began the scan. What appeared across her screen made her freeze. Her field assistant later said he thought the equipment had failed because she simply wasn't responding. Not taking notes, not changing settings, just standing there, eyes fixed on the display for almost 2 full minutes without saying anything. Stay with me, because this is the part that tears open everything that follows. The radar revealed a huge hollow chamber concealed inside what every geologist had always believed was completely solid basalt, 12 feet deep, 26 feet wide. A room locked behind volcanic rock with no entrance and no exit that any instrument had ever found. That alone should have been impossible. But what the scan revealed inside that chamber made the chamber itself seem like a footnote. 7 tall figures standing upright in darkness, each one between 7 and 8 feet tall, arranged in a precise formation, spaced exactly 4.5 feet apart, every single one facing the stone door, not scattered randomly, not fallen, standing in rows facing the way out. Now, consider what that really means. Basalt does not form around upright objects. It is cooled lava, not sedimentary rock that accumulates over time. The only way those figures could be inside that rock is if they were already standing there when the lava was still liquid, still burning at over 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit, sealed inside since the eruption that created the Giant's Causeway 60 million years ago. Humans wouldn't exist for another 59 million years. Whatever those 7 things were, they stood in formation before anything resembling a human being ever walked this planet. And one of them was already missing. The second scan. The next morning, geophysicist Dr. Ian Gallagher arrived from Belfast carrying more advanced scanning equipment. Gallagher specializes in subsurface imaging, studying what's buried beneath rock, soil, and ocean floor. He has mapped underground river systems across northern Europe and worked on deep crust surveys for the Irish government. The kind of calm you only get from someone who has studied underground images for 30 years and never been surprised by one. For decades, he had examined buried structures and strange formations without ever seeing anything remotely like this before. 20 minutes into the scan, his hands were trembling so badly that he had to place his tablet on a rock and step back. He paced in a small circle for a minute, rubbing the back of his neck before returning and staring at the screen again. This is exactly where things stop making any sense at all. The higher resolution scan showed that the 7 figures weren't solid stone. They were hollow shells, thin outer layers with empty interiors like cocoons, like something had once lived inside each one, or perhaps still did. The shell material couldn't be identified. Whatever it was made from should never have survived contact with molten lava. Nothing organic survives 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Nothing synthetic should either, not for that long, not under that pressure. Yet there they stood, intact, structurally sound, trapped inside rock that had been liquid fire while the dinosaurs were still disappearing. Gallagher saved the scan onto 2 encrypted drives before leaving the cliff that night. By the time he reached his car, he had already received the first call from a number he didn't recognize. By the time he arrived in Belfast, the agency was already heading toward the site, the cover-up. Within 48 hours, government agencies had been quietly notified. Encrypted emails, private briefings. An environmental agency team arrived and released a statement almost immediately. The drone footage was an illusion of light reflecting across wet basalt. No chamber existed. No anomalies were found. The area was completely normal, they insisted. Their own lead consultant, Dr. Brennan herself, refused to sign that report. She read the draft statement twice, slid it back across the table without reaching for a pen. Nobody objected. She collected her notes and walked out. That night, she sat alone inside her office at Queen's University Belfast. The raw sonar data remained open on her screen, the hollow chamber, the 7 standing figures. The cursor blinked inside an empty email draft beside it. It blinked for a long time, 20 minutes, 30. She didn't move. When she finally typed, there were 4 sentences. The last one said, "I have seen enough." 3 words. Her entire scientific conclusion after 15 years studying that coastline. She pressed send and shut the laptop. She didn't end there. Over the following months, despite resigning, she gathered everything into a formal paper, had it peer-reviewed, and submitted it to Ireland's Geological Review Board. The board rejected it completely. Faulty equipment, flawed methodology. Case closed. A colleague from that board contacted her privately afterward. Off-the-record burner phone. He told her the real reason had nothing to do with her research. If the public discovered that biological heat signatures and rhythmic pulses had been detected inside ancient basalt, it would shatter the foundation of everything we think we know about the history of life on Earth. Every textbook rewritten, every timeline shattered, every assumption about when intelligence first emerged on this planet thrown completely out the window. The following morning, heavy steel barriers and bright yellow warning signs went up around the entire stretch of cliff. Official reason: coastal erosion, falling rock danger. Everyone who had seen those scans understood exactly why that section of cliff was suddenly forbidden. What the next scan would reveal is why none of them sleep peacefully anymore. One of them is missing. Before the team was officially ordered away, Dr. Brennan returned to the site one final time, 4 days after the original scan. She wanted to run a comparison pass, verify the data, record any changes. She expected everything to appear identical. She was praying it would. She wanted to believe the first scan had been a malfunction, something that would disappear under another examination. Stay with me, because this is where the timeline shatters. When the fresh image appeared on her screen, she gripped the edge of the equipment case to keep herself steady. One of the figures had vanished. Only 6 were left. The stone door had never opened, not even once. Kieran Doyle had installed a motion-activated camera pointed directly at the rock face the day after his original recording. It operated 24 hours a day for all 4 days. 0 movement outside, not a tremor, not a vibration. The door remained sealed the entire time. Yet inside that locked chamber, what researchers at the site described as a 7-foot-tall figure had simply disappeared. No dust, no debris, no crack, no tunnel, no trace, as though it had walked directly through solid rock and vanished into a world that was supposed to exist beyond the impossible. Wherever it went, it didn't leave a forwarding address. They are warm. They have heartbeats. Dr. Neem Callahan, a thermal imaging specialist from University College Dublin, was brought in to search for volcanic heat sources or underground water. She had conducted this kind of survey dozens of times at geothermal sites across Iceland and the Azores. She expected to discover a hot ring, a magma pocket, perhaps a buried water channel, something ordinary, something explainable. It was a freezing March morning. The air temperature was 39 degrees Fahrenheit. The cliff face was equally cold, standard Irish coast conditions. Then she pointed her thermal camera toward the chamber location. The screen is filled with orange and red. Inside the sealed room, the thermal data appeared to show the 6 remaining figures giving off heat at 99 degrees Fahrenheit. Healthy, living people. That is not close to human body temperature. That is human body temperature. The exact internal core temperature of a healthy, living human being. And there is no process in geology or thermodynamics that explains how anything remains that warm inside cold stone for even a century, much less millions of years. Heat always dissipates. It radiates outward and fades. That's a fundamental law of physics, not a theory. Sealed inside freezing basalt, surrounded by Atlantic Ocean air, anything warm should have reached equilibrium with the surrounding rock within days, not millions of years, days. Callahan recalibrated her equipment, replaced the batteries, repositioned the camera, and repeated the scan from 3 different angles. Every time, 99 degrees, steady, unmistakable. She borrowed a second thermal unit from Gallagher's kit. Same result. She asked her colleagues, completely serious, whether they were playing a prank on her. When she saw their faces, pale, tight-lipped, nobody laughing, she understood they weren't. She packed her gear into her car without another word and didn't answer a single email or phone call for 3 weeks. When she finally replied, it was one line. I need more time to process what I saw. The team had also placed vibration sensors along the rock face. What those sensors detected is the part that shattered them. A rhythmic pulse repeating every 4 seconds, steady, consistent, never changing. One senior researcher, carefully choosing his words, admitted on record that the pattern was impossible to distinguish from a slow heartbeat. 6 heartbeats behind solid rock, beating together. And every reading they collected after that first one only became stronger. They are moving toward the door. Every 72 hours, the team conducted a new scan. Every time, the situation became worse. The 6 remaining figures were changing positions, not dramatically, a few inches at a time, barely noticeable between individual scans, but consistently, directionally, always toward the same place. They were no longer in that precise military formation. They had gathered together and were steadily shifting toward the sealed stone door, slowly, deliberately, like something awakening from a very long sleep and deciding it was finally time to leave. The researchers layered the positional data from every 72-hour scan into one composite image. When they saw the trajectory, 6 data points on a clear, uninterrupted path toward the exit, nobody inside the room spoke for a long time. Now, consider what that actually means. These things have been trapped inside volcanic rock since before mammals even existed. They have survived every species, every civilization, every empire that ever rose and collapsed above them. For tens of millions of years, they didn't move. Patient, motionless, waiting. And now, right now, during our lifetime, they are moving toward the door. The thermal readings weren't stable either. They would spike above 100 degrees with no outside trigger, then fall back down to 99 degrees. The fluctuations didn't correspond with tides, weather, or any known geological cycle. The team compared them against barometric pressure, lunar phases, and seismic activity across the North Atlantic. Nothing matched. The heat was behaving independently, reacting to something internal, not external, something alive. Over 1 million tourists visit the Giant's Causeway every year. Families cross those black stones with their children, take selfies, listen to guides, talk about Finn McCool, without knowing that just 39 feet behind the rock, 6 entities are radiating body heat into the cold stone and moving toward a door that has already opened once. The blackout. In April, all monitoring equipment was quietly taken away from the site. The researchers were told directly, "Stay silent or your careers are finished. No publication, no interviews, no social media, nothing." But they couldn't destroy everything. The evidence that survived. Kieran Doyle still has his original drone footage stored on 3 separate hard drives kept in different places across Dublin. He checks them weekly to ensure the files haven't been corrupted or remotely erased. The researchers who worked the site, Brennan, Gallagher, Callahan, and at least 2 others, kept personal copies of everything. Sonar data, thermal logs, vibration recordings, positional scans, time-stamped photographs of every equipment reading, all stored on encrypted drives where no agency can access them without a warrant. The final scan before the equipment was removed showed the 6 figures still moving, still pulsing, still warm. The one nearest to the door was only a few feet from the stone entrance. Its rhythmic heartbeat was measurably stronger than the week before, growing louder, growing faster. The numbers they recorded that night are still being studied privately. Nobody has agreed on what they mean, but everyone who examined the data agreed on one thing. The next time someone scans that cliff face, there will be fewer than 6 figures inside, the one that already escaped. The question keeping all of these researchers awake at night isn't about the 6 remaining inside, it's about the 7th. When they first scanned that chamber, there were 7 figures. Now there are 6. 1 is gone. It didn't break through the stone. It didn't open the door. It didn't leave a tunnel, a crack, a scratch, or even 1 grain of displaced dust. It simply wasn't there anymore. So where is it now? Somewhere beneath the Atlantic, moving through cave systems below the Irish seabed, hidden inside an unexplored cavern along the coastline, buried within another cliff face nobody has thought to scan, or somewhere else completely beneath a city, inside a mountain, moving through places we have never considered searching. Doyle, the electrician with the drone, recently told a friend something he hasn't shared with anyone else. The night his footage went public, during the few seconds before the slab sealed shut, he saw something move at the edge of the frame, not inside the chamber, outside it, crossing the cliff edge. He removed the clip before that section. He has never released the complete file. The remaining 6 didn't react when the 7th disappeared. They didn't scatter or shift positions. They simply continued moving toward the door, patiently, steadily, as if the departure was expected, as if it was merely the first one to leave, as if they are all waiting for their turn. We have spent our entire existence believing we were the first intelligent beings to walk this planet. These figures suggest otherwise. Something was here long before us, sealed inside stone, radiating warmth, pulsing with a rhythm that sounds exactly like a heartbeat, waiting within that rock while every civilization we have ever created rose and collapsed on the surface above it. Dr. Brennan recently said something off the record to one of the few people she still trusts. Their heartbeats are getting stronger. Their heat signatures are rising. They are inches from the exit. And the 7th? The 7th is already out there, moving through a world that has no idea it exists. Do you think the others have already escaped? Tell me in the comments. And if you want to know the moment new evidence appears in this story, hit subscribe and turn on notifications because this one is far from over.